Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio. This is Angela Zabel, that's me, and today I am going to be talking with Amy Robenson, and she is from Tennessee. We are going to be talking about the business of spirituality, and she is a business strategist. And I can't wait to get into this because there's a lot of people out there I know have their own businesses, and they are really working at increasing and changing their business. There's a lot more we're going to get into. So today, who am I? I am Angela Zabel. I have been connected with spirit my entire life, working with a team in the non-physical, sharing messages and information from a multitude of realms with people. I am a teacher, coach, medium, radio show host. I am a writer, retreat host, gallery reader, speaker, and I offer guidance, mediumship, intuition. I do classes and online and all of the aspects out there. So make sure to check that out on all of my social media. But also, I have the Amplified Universe membership. And this is for people, this is a group growing your connection to us, our world, all that's around us, and our role in it. And you can find out more of that information, has all the social media aspects, and on angelazabel.com. And who are we here with? We're with the Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, and wellness, and the mysteries beyond. Sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed to promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. And you can find out more about Edge Magazine at edgemagazine.net. And today we are here with Amy Robenson. She is not just a gifted teacher. She is not just a gifted healer. She is a beacon of transformation, guiding conscious entrepreneurs on a journey of aligning their businesses with their spiritual values. And with a thriving global community, Amy possesses a unique ability to seamlessly and powerfully have healing techniques with proven business strategies, resulting in businesses that are not only successful, but also deeply aligned and prosperous. Amy is an Akashic Records instructor, Reiki master teacher, a life coach, a crystal teacher, Tantra, and hopefully I'm doing this right. Aravita, not quite sure if I got that right, but it's a yoga teacher.
Ayurveda.
There you go. She mentors students worldwide. You can find out more about Amy at theamyrobinson.com. And she has a selection of different free healing aspects out there, activations. I went through and I checked on her list. She has so many out there. And you can check out more on that on the Robenson.com Sacred Gifts. And she's also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And all of these links will be down below. So don't freak out. You couldn't write it down fast enough. It's all going to be down below. And today I'm talking with Amy. And Amy, I am so happy to have you on today. And I am curious, you didn't start out in this aspect of business strategist. How did you get from where you were to how you are now?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in you follow the energy that spirit presents to you. And if you follow the energy, you will be taken to magical places that you could never have dreamed of. And for me, every opportunity that I've had is just because of that philosophy and that rule of thumb is like, oh, that I get a yes, and I'm going to do it. And for me, I just started down a path of spirituality out of necessity due to depression. So I was at a low place in my life where I didn't want to be here anymore. And at the time I didn't have these words, but I just kept getting intuitive hits to go to do yoga. And finally I listened to that intuitive hit, and the first time I went was amazing. And I got all these endorphins and dopamine hits, and like the happy juices started flowing. And because I started going consistently, like my intuition, my intuitive channels started opening up. And then that led me to the next thing, which led me to the next thing, which led me to the next thing. And eventually I wanted to start a business for myself. I always knew I wanted to start a business for myself, but I didn't know what it would be or what it would look like. And honestly, I never thought it would be spiritual. Like it was just something that I just kept following the energy, and I kept taking all these intuitive classes, from mediumship readings to meditation to learning how to do exorcisms and chakra balancing and things like that. And what spoke to me the most was the Akashic records. And the Akashic records, I believe, is a really super powerful tool, especially for business owners, because I built my entire business using the Akashic records. And for anybody that doesn't know what the Akashic records are, it's an energy field of infinite possibilities that records every word, deed, thought from the moment your soul is incepted. And we can go into that field of energy and ask for love and guidance support in any and all areas of our life. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you want to start a business, but you're dragging your feet, or you're scared, or you're not taking action, you can literally go in there and say like, hey, I want to start my business. Why am I avoiding doing it? Or, hey, I want to start my business. What are the steps to take? Or, hey, I'm having a hard time communicating in my romantic relationship with my partner. How can I better shift my communication? Or what is my issue in the relationship that I can work on that's going to shift our dynamic? And so there's so many things that we can use the records for besides business and besides past life regression, because there's a lot of people that think that the records are only for past life regressions. But for me, it was just, I got to this point by following the energy, and the Akashic records were the biggest catalyst for everything in my business and in my success, and not success just in business, but success in all the different areas of my life.
I think you make a really good point. A lot of people, like you said, they think the Akashic record is just to go back, just to go check on things that happened before, and not looking at them as a tool to bring yourself forward, to see what you're doing now, and to look in the future to see what's out there that you can step
Yeah.
into. I
Yeah,
I think
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in like the way that I teach my students in Sacred Awakening, which is my Akashic record program, is we use the records to be extremely interactive, meaning you're not just sitting there receiving a bunch of information like a psychic reading. That's not how it is. It's a conversation with the guardians of the records. I also refer to them as the masters, teachers, and loved ones, and they are sharing information with you. You're asking them questions. They're asking you questions. And it allows you to sit. And then what you get to do is you get to utilize them for the past, the present, and the future. And I love that you also said the future, because how you view the future in the present moment is what you're going to create in the future. And so if you are scared and nervous, the guardians of the Akashic records can help you work through that nervous energy and really focus on what's in your control, how you can shift and change, and get really into your heart center so that you can bridge your inner and outer world and create the life that you want, create the reality that you want.
Absolutely. And that's why when for me and for those of you, I have a team on the other side, and they're one of their big things is letting people know there's so much in the future that's available, so much to tap into if you're willing to look there. And I love the fact that you also use the future in your Akashic readings. And so my team's getting a little excited. They also love the fact that you brought up that Akashic, the guardians that are there, that can be past loved ones, it can be angels, it can be all different realms that are there. Don't limit to yourself to the realms that are in those Akashic records that can help you with your own Akashic records. So it's very refreshing to hear you listing a lot of the other realms instead of just a lot of people look at it's just an Akashic record guardian and it's just that person, and there's so
Yep,
many
it's
others that
one
are
person, it's one book, it's one table, this is what I always tell my students is, if that's how you are first perceiving it, that's perfect.
right.
But give yourself permission to allow the perception to expand, because the guardians are always going to meet you where you're at in that particular moment. And there are so many different ways that one particular spiritual practice is taught, and it's all about perception. And the cool thing about the guardians of the Akashic Records is that they are here to provide you more than multiple perspectives. They're here to provide you an infinite amount of perspectives. And maybe they'll provide 10, maybe they'll provide 3. And this is why I love the records in general for relationships, because we're all in relationships with everything. We're in relationships with ourselves, we're in relationship with creation, we're in relationship with others. And there's so many things that are miscommunicated or misinterpreted because of perception. And I was talking to my husband, this is kind of a funny story. I saw this reel pop up on social media the other day, and it was a mom that was like, hey, to my future daughter-in-law, I want to show you what I'm teaching my 11-year-old son right now, your husband. I'm showing him how to not put his laundry in the laundry basket inside out. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And reading through these comments were quite interesting because they had all these different people going, I teach my kids to do laundry now at 7, and I like, that's not a big deal. And then other people are going through all these different ray of emotions based on this one video. And I had neutral response to it. Like, I didn't have any trigger or anything like that. But then 2 days later, I'm folding my clothes and I'm realizing all my daughter's clothes are inside out. Some of my clothes are inside out. Some of them are not. And I'm like, I've never thought to be upset about this. And I've never thought like, hey, my husband should make sure his clothes are inside out or not. My husband does his own laundry and I do my own laundry. But it was so funny. So I went and I talked to my husband about it. And I was like, hey, how do you take your clothes off? Because I was curious. And that's the thing
Right.
about spirituality is being curious and not triggered. And if you are
Yes.
triggered, it's an invitation to heal something. So I was just curious. And so we had this whole long conversation about how to take off clothes. And like, my husband is very efficient. Like, he's like, how do you think I take them off? I'm like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. And he goes, I make sure they're properly taken off where they're not inside out, so I can efficiently fold them and I'm not having to put them the proper way. And I was like, oh, interesting. Well, I've never thought about that. And I think like smaller clothes, just naturally, if you're taking off a smaller shirt, you have to pull it off and it's going to be inside out, but I've never thought to like turn it the other way. So it was just so funny that this one person's little video triggered so many responses, and there were an array of different responses. Like, some were like cheering her on, some were not. And I was just like, huh. But that's the thing when it comes to anything we do. And if it's in life or business, is asking yourself or paying attention to the things you're doing and asking, like, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? Does this matter? Does it not matter? To the end of the day, and we're talking about laundry here, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal to me, but to other people it is. And that's why I love the Guardians, because they'll offer so many different perspectives, and it's neat to see it all unfold.
I love you brought that up because this is all about personal expansion, personal growth. What triggers you? And that's very true. What triggers you? And I'm going to be honest. I used to be triggered with my husband taking his clothes off inside out because I
Isn't
always
that funny?
but I don't anymore. But I did then because I felt like I was always short on time, and I felt it took
Mm.
me longer time to then turn them right side out to get them to put away. And so for me, it was a trigger at one point. Now it's not, because it's like now I look at it as the laundry is the time for me to do grounding. So,
Yeah.
so
And
it's
that's
like,
fun for you to acknowledge that you're not triggered by it anymore either.
but I was.
Oh, for sure. And I
I
bet you
was.
can even like think about it, like how it can, you can even have it percolate back up. If you even put
Absolutely.
yourself in that space where you were before. But I love that you flip the switch on it to it's a grounding exercise.
And I use it that way. Actually, I use it, and for me, grounding is doing the dishes, cleaning the
Yes.
bathroom, doing the laundry, and I'll do that. I mean, you and I both, we do a lot of things where you're working with a lot of people. That's kind of a downtime. It's for me, it's a downtime.
Yeah.
It's just a connection time to just be myself and not worry about anything and not have to worry about anything at all except concentrating on what I'm doing.
Yeah, I love that. And like for me, cleaning was a big trigger of mine for a really long time just because of how I grew up. And so I had to find a way to not be angry while I was cleaning because it was a learned behavior from childhood. And so for me, I would give myself the opportunity to learn something new about myself while I was cleaning. So, but like I don't like dirt on my kitchen cabinets. And so like I'll just be like sitting there scrubbing my kitchen cabinets. And as I'm doing it, I'll like an epiphany will pop up. And like that's the cool thing about the subconscious and spirit is if you give it a task, either your subconscious or your guides, the guardians, whatever, you're going to have an epiphany. It might not happen right away, it might not happen in that exact moment, but it is sitting in your energy field to happen. And the more consistent you are with setting that intention, giving it constructive direction, you're
Yeah.
going to have it happen.
And that's a really good point is when you're asking for information, when you're asking for ideas, difficult situations, can the information come immediately? It can, but be prepared to putting it out there, giving it time to percolate, and then coming in when you're at the right space to receive the information. Because a lot of times, let's face it, when something's going on and you're angry about something, it's not the best time to receive information. It's going to be hard to get through that energy field of anger or and that's something as you've been working with people and you've been working with the Akashic, and my team is saying you do a wonderful job accessing so many points of the Akashic and showing people how to access with those different perspectives in the Akashic records. So they're saying you do a wonderful job with that. So that's their seal of approval for you. So I recommend if anybody's looking at Akashic Records and you resonate with Amy, check her out because she has some good stuff going on.
Oh, thank you.
They want you to know that as you've been working, and they're kind of asking, as you've been working with people going through the Akashic Records, have you noticed a difference in because emotionally with people? Because a lot of people go into Akashic Records with the intent of just finding out information. But are you noticing more of the information is there to help with the emotional release of everything?
So for me, the way that I teach it is I could just go here. This is how you open the records. This is the types of questions to ask, and then we're done. That could be how I teach it. I don't like teaching it like that because it is such a personal journey. And we got to look at the emotions. We got to look at the mental body. So I teach inside of my Akashic Record program. I teach working with the bodies. I call them the bodies. So it's your mind, body, soul, but I break them down even further where we're working with your mental body, we're working with your emotional body, we're working with your physical, your spiritual, your inner child, and your ego. These are the six foundational bodies that we have to work with that dictate how your day is going to be. And if you are, the best example that I can give is, you could be really excited about, let's say, going on a trip. And then all of a sudden, the day before the trip, all this doubt starts coming in, and you start trying to talk yourself out of going on the trip. Well, where is that coming from? What aspect of you or aspects of you is talking yourself out of this trip, and why? And this is where curiosity comes in. And so I'm a big believer in, we got to work on the whole and not just ask for information. Because if you're not able to receive the information because you don't feel worthy, or you're, like I always call it, shackled to the past. You're shackled to the past in some way, shape, or form, and the bodies are shackled to the past. And our job is to invite these aspects of our being to move to the present moment. And the more that we move them to the present moment, the more you create the reality that you truly desire to have versus on a previous set of conditions. And because those conditions create the habits and the behaviors and perceptions. So the emotional component of working in the records is a big deal to me, because you get to have an opportunity to reparent yourself and relove yourself back to wholeness. And that's huge.
That is huge. And taking the time to check on the emotions. And I love the fact that you talked about shackled to the past, because there are so many things people don't even realize are coming from your past. And it can be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel it's also, it's not just the past you yourself lived, the past that others have lived next to you, and how you perceive the past is also part of it, and societal past, as in general society,
Yeah.
how that
So
impacts us.
we have the collective that definitely is impacting us. Then we have our ancestral lines that we're born into. And then we have the so we have our ancestral lines, we have our soul lineage, and our soul lineage is any timeline. So it could be this timeline, previous timelines, future timelines, because we're multidimensional and we are living on many timelines all at once. And so it's more than just this particular moment in time. But I also want to emphasize that it is really important to not glamorize past lives, and it's really important to not glamorize certain aspects of the past, because if you are receiving information from that timeline, it is for a reason. You're on this timeline for a reason. You're conscious, you are locked to this timeline, you're tethered to this timeline. And part of it is remembering it's safe to be human. You chose to have a human experience for some reason. And it's not for some reason, it's many, 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 many reasons. And it is okay to have human experiences, because I think that social media teaches that it's this glamorized perception of life, and I'm going to tell you, all of it's smoke and mirrors. And even if it is truly what is happening in that person's life, you are still perceiving it slightly different, if not completely different, than what that picture shows or what that reel shows or what have you. And so it's really important to live your life and not compare your life to other people's, because you have a unique frequency and unique perception of life. And the more that you work on yourself, you create what it is that you want to create based on those perceptions.
I love the fact, because I've known different people where they've come up and they've said, "Oh, I've got to work on my past life because of this and this and this," and it's like you said, it's coming up for a reason. It's not that you need to go back, relive it. You need to do it. It's coming up because there's something in your life that's similar. There's something that's triggering that memory now, and to
Yeah.
investigate it, knowing it's going to help you move forward. And knowing that we're here for a reason, we're here to experience this life. Everyone's unique and different. And that's the one thing I love, is everyone is unique and different. and being okay with being unique and different and not trying to be like other people, or like you said, comparing yourself to other people, that's a huge step for a lot of people because societal a lot of times makes it where you want to compare yourself all the time and you're
Oh
always
yeah.
compared. And so this is really a way of looking at it and going, working on myself, being okay and embracing uniqueness. That's huge for people to recognize that and to be happy and joyful to be here at this moment. And my team is just saying so many of you want to do the out of body experiences and want to be everywhere else. And instead of understanding you're here to enjoy this experience, everything it has to offer. And that's
Mhm.
something they like about you also is they're just saying you like to let people enjoy the life they're living and really make it a focus. And that's something that's so important for people to recognize and understand going forward. And you didn't start out this way. I mean, you started out in a regular business world, did
Oh
you not?
yeah, for sure.
And
Like I worked as a finance manager in the auto industry for a decade. And so I like had a very crazy job. I worked anywhere from 50 to 70 hours a week, depending on the week, depending on the month, depending on what time of the month it was. And I worked my butt off. And what I discovered was I love helping people, but that I didn't want to be a car person for the rest of my life. I'll tell you that. And just because you're good at something does not mean you're meant to be there forever. And I think that's very hard for people to understand. Also, just because you can do it doesn't mean you're supposed to do it.
I,
And that's the thing that for me, I I didn't just wake up one day and I'm like, let's go learn how to be spiritual. Like I didn't have that experience. However, I've had stepping stones all throughout my life that I didn't realize were there until I really entered into the spiritual community. And that was like I grew up with crystals my whole life. My grandma collected them, my mom collected them. My grandma was a tarot card and astrological reader. Uh, like I forgot all about that. Like she taught me how to do tarot cards when I was a kid, but like it wasn't something that I like remembered because you fall out of practice of things when you're an adult. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do that. Like I remember doing those things. And like I would talk to angels when I was a kid. But again, I didn't remember that in my early 20s. And I'm like, but then when I started going down this path again, I was like, oh, well, one, it was never presented to me as spirituality. It was just something my family did that was fun. And like I didn't grow up in organized religion. And so, but I craved that connection. And that's why I talked to angels. And that's why like anybody that a family member of mine that would go to church, I'm like, I want to go to church. Like, can I go with you? Like, because I wanted to understand what that was. And what I was craving was that deep, deep connection with creation. You might have a different title for creation, it might be spirit, universe, God, whatever sacred title you that sacred being is beautiful. But I was craving that connection because that connection is truly a deep connection with yourself because creation dwells within you and you are that and that is you and that is your wholeness. And when you have that connection and you're not looking at it from the outside of you, it's actually on the inside of you, you create a different relationship with yourself. And that's key.
that is key. And one of the things so my team is excited because you just brought up another good point they wanted to bring out is you talked about wanting to investigate and wanting to experience the other religions and being able to go in there because there's so much good with so many different aspects. Pick and choose what fits with you because it's all about the connection. The underlying, and they're just saying the underlying is about the connection. So give yourself the freedom to check into some of the other things, but do it in an aspect of how is the connection done? And
Yeah.
they just want to give people the freedom to check in, to investigate. They're saying, as you said, use your curiosity to check the other religions, check the other aspects, and see what resonates with you. See how their connection works, not the rest of it. The connection, that's the key. And they
Yeah,
all
I
carry
like
that
that.
connection. And that's something they they're just saying for you, your whole growing up, you had so many aspects, but then they just want to give everyone the hall pass, they're calling it, because when you get older, it's the living life. I mean, you're getting into life, you're getting done with school, you're moving into everything else. You don't have time to even think about anything else most of the time. And they're just saying everybody should give themselves a hall pass to be okay with moving through that and then investigating, using your curiosity when you have the time, when it feels right. And it's always going to be the exact right time. And as you were going through all of that, you started working with light language. What is light language?
It is so fun and so weird. Let's just call it what it is. It's a very, very weird. Light language is similar to speaking in tongue. And what we're doing is we are channeling the cosmic language of your soul. There are paragraphs of information in every sound or movement or symbol that light language holds. And this information, sometimes there is not a human word for it. It can't be described in a human word. I mean, we can try to describe it, but it's still not going to encapsulate everything. And when my team started saying, "You're going to speak light language," I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not." I don't want to do that. That's so weird. Like, why do you want me to do that? And they're like, "Yes, you can. You can do it." And it was starting to come up and coming up and coming up and coming up. And when I gave myself full permission to do it, um, it was incredible because there were things that I would channel in healings for my clients or for my community where their light language wanted to come in to shake things up or to help integrate or to help zap or to help embody. And there's an array of different reasons why we would use the light language. But a client of mine said this to me when I first started speaking it, and he was like, "Amy, it was like my higher self came in and said, pay attention. You
Wow.
got to pay attention. This is really important." Because he was like kind of slipping out of what we were doing. And it like snapped his energy right back into place.
Nice.
And that's the cool thing about light language is it meets you where you're at, depending on what we're doing with it. And it manipulates the energy field. It assists in connecting with the higher self because it moves past the conscious mind into the subconscious mind and manipulating that energy. That I'm using that word in a positive way, because like when we're balancing our chakras with a crystal, we're manipulating the energy to move it back into balance. And so this is manipulating, restoring, rejuvenating the energy in a way that brings it into balance or into connection. Depends on what it is that we're doing. But it's weird, it's funky. I have so many people that come to me asking me about light language, which is kind of odd because I was like, this is totally not what I was ever anticipating. I just thought it was going to be this one weird thing that I did. And it's just become a part of my core foundational things that I do. So like every healing I do, there's an infusion of light language in it. And it just sounds like a foreign language is what it sounds like.
And that's something I think for people to realize some of this stuff doesn't seem like the norm. It may be like, I mean, even for like you and me, some of the stuff that comes in, like, really got to do some of this stuff. And it seems kind of out there for us, and we're dealing with it every day. But to know that there's so much we don't understand, and they're continually teaching all of us all the time. They're continually, and the thing is, more things are coming in as all the people in general are themselves rising in their own spirituality. They're bringing more and more in to help us rise even faster. And that's something I think is so really neat to see with you, how you're expanding and doing a lot of different aspects to help people to meet them where they're at, because everyone's at a different level. And
They are. They
there's so
are.
many different levels. And that you're doing the soul light language, and you also work with the crystalline, and you said you did the crystalline energy. And was that pretty natural for you to go from the crystalline energy when you did it when you were younger, which you were just playing in really cool rocks and things like that, to then
Yeah.
bringing it in later? How did that transform to bring it back in?
Well, it was interesting. Well, how I teach the Akashic records is I teach people how to open their records using crystalline energy. So it's infused in my work. And for me, it was interesting. I was guided to a friend of mine was going to take a training, and I asked her if she wanted to go water skiing the next day with us. And she goes, I can't, I'm doing something really weird. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I want to know what you're doing. And she goes, you're going to find it really weird. I'm like, no, I'm not going to find it weird. And at the time, I was meditating really consistently. I was having these really strange experiences. Like I was having premonitions, like it wasn't going to be weird to me, like
Right.
whatsoever. And I was also taking a mediumship course, which it was called a meditation teacher course, but
Interesting.
it was a meditation teacher course, but you learn how to do exorcism, hands-on healings, all that stuff. Like it was intense. And she's like, well, I'm gonna go get level 1 Reiki certified. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I know I'm supposed to go with you tomorrow. And she goes, really? I go, yeah, can you ask her if I can come?
I love it.
She goes, I can ask her. And this teacher had a rule that if you hadn't had a Reiki session, she wouldn't do the certification, but she made an exception for me that day.
Funny
And
how that works.
yeah, and I walked into her studio in this space. It was just filled with crystals, and I have never seen crystals displayed in this spiritual way. And I was like, what is this? Like, oh my goodness, I love it. And I just like that just reinvigorated my clear soul's knowing of crystals, because I've been around crystals my whole life, but I've never seen them that way. And like that just opened up a door to the crystal world in a different way for me. And then it was funny because this particular teacher I had over at my house, like maybe a month or so later, or whenever, I don't really remember. And she like walks in, she goes, you realize you have a ton of crystals, Amy? I'm like, I do. Like, like I do. I didn't know I had a ton of crystals, but it's like I've grown up with them. So it wasn't something that ever registered to me. And so for me, that opened the door to working with the crystalline energy. And I learned how to do like Reiki with crystals, and then like I meditate with crystals, and I work with the crystals, and I teach the crystals like how to do this to open the records with it. And it was just this, I remember, and it wasn't, again, because I think that some people are going to mistake this, like I walked in and instantly I knew exactly how to work with the crystals. That wasn't the experience. It was this deep recognition of I am home,
Yes.
and let me just play with this because this feels really good. And I don't know where this is going, but let's just play with it. And I have a ridiculous amount of crystals, and like we give crystal kits out with our to our sacred awakening students, because I love crystals that much. Like there are little spiritual light beings inside of each and every crystal that wants to help you, that wants to support you, that wants to assist in attracting and assist in repelling things away from you too, because If it's a protection stone, it's going to repel negative energy away from you. And if it's a manifesting stone, it's going to repel negativity or negative thoughts or bad experiences that don't support that manifestation, and it's going to support and bringing in experiences that are going to support that desire that you want.
And that's the other point is I love how you clarified it didn't happen like overnight and poof, you know everything. You still have to play with it. It feels right. It's that point when you walk in somewhere and it feels like home. And that's the point where it's trusting yourself and going, okay, now I can learn from here. Now I can, and I love how you said play with it because it really should be play. It shouldn't be hard work. It shouldn't be like, oh, I've got to, hit the books and do all this. It should be like, what can I learn? What can I play? What can I understand about this? And make it fun. Make it fun. So many of us have enough hard stuff in our life. We don't need spirituality to be hard either.
Yeah. And that's one of my goals this year is how can I have the most amount of fun? Like can I bring it to the next level? Because I talk about that a lot in my courses where like we got to have fun. And yes, we can work on the hard stuff, but we need to balance it with the fun stuff too. And like I just taught our virtual retreat to our Sacred Awakening students this week. And we did a past life regression where we healed something, but we also did a past life regression where we embodied a new gift. Like,
Nice.
ooh, let's go explore that life where something really cool happened. And let's see what and how we can use that gift in this timeline.
I love that, creating balance in your life because it's bringing that fun in because I mean there's the world is in a little bit of chaos. Everybody kind of knows that. But to bring in the fun to our life, to experience the fun, to look for fun, specifically look for fun every single day. What fun can I have today? What is it? What can I do? And that's something you've been working with a lot of people and you've worked with people all around the world. And one of them was you were also, for those of you who don't know, Cryon with Lee Carroll,
Yeah.
and you have worked with him. How did that, and they're just, how did that manifest for you? How did that connection be created? And how was it like working with Cryon and Lee Carroll?
So I was able to, I was on their show, which is a huge opportunity because they have a massive show. And it was last year that I set the intention that I was going to do things differently. And this year I'm doing things even more differently than last year because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? And
Yes.
so last year I was like, I want to be on podcasts. Like I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. And my mission in life is to one, normalize spirituality and to help people know that it is okay to be human. Like it is okay to be human. It's okay to feel your feelings. And we're in our own little circle. And how do you get out of that circle to reach more people? And that's the cool part is like you have to be willing to do uncomfortable things
Yeah.
and you have to be willing to let go of things as well. And so I that was like my intention last year was like, okay, like I'm gonna carve out time. I have to give up some things so I can be on podcast interviews. And I was able to get on that show, which was a huge opportunity. And their show is amazing and they're so sweet and he channels Chiron and it's just like I love different spiritual communities. They all have different energy and different connection, but we're all talking about the same thing. Like Chiron talks about the Akashic records. And so when I got the notice that I was going to be on the show, it was like, I'm gonna go talk to someone that talks about the Akashic records. That's neat. Like to me, that is really neat because we all have a different perception and we are not in competition with anybody. Like
No.
we are not in competition. The person that you're in competition with is yourself because you're the one that creates the boundaries. You're the ones that create the barriers. You're the one that creates the perceptions or the misperceptions of what's going on. And so I was just like, this is so neat. Like, it's just so neat. So I'm really excited for 2024 to see what's coming next, because really, like, for me, and I don't know if you feel this way, but 2024 is a massive manifesting year. It's the numerology number 8. Like, we're going to have a massive amount um of it's like momentum that's going to get this ball rolling. And what we're going to see, we'll see results in 2024, but a lot of what we're going to see the results happen is in 2025 and 2026.
Oh, I agree with you.
And it's going to be huge. And so you have to be okay with not having instant gratification.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you totally. That's something I've been feeling, and I've been letting people know, they just before the new year, I had the angels come in and they wanted to give a message to people. So I'm like, okay, right now. They're like, yeah, right now. So I quickly got on live, did it and uploaded to YouTube and had it out there. But it's the message of it's all moving forward, and it's moving so quickly. Be ready
It
to
really
kind of hang on to your bootstraps because it's going to move, but it can be so fun if you let it and don't try to like put your hands against the wall and stop the forward momentum, because it is moving so quickly and it's going to continue. And like you said, 2024, 2025, I feel that is just, it's a huge step of movement forward for all of us, huge manifesting. Also means there's some going to be some chaos out there, but we'll work ourselves through that and know that that's why we're connecting. That's why we're doing, you're connecting with the light language and the crystals and doing and talking and speaking to help everybody make this transition easier and smoother. And I love how you said you put the intention out there to reach more people, to share what you're doing and to make it different. And that's one of the things that was part of my intention the last few years, is to get out there more, to do it more, because there's so many more people looking for answers. And
Mm-hmm.
they're just trying to find anything that resonates with them. And the more people you meet, the more people you show, like you're going on different podcasts, you're reaching a whole different crowd of people, a whole different aspect of people who can then start resonating with you and resonating with everyone else. So you're reaching people in each of these, my team has always said pockets
Yeah.
of different resonance. So you're reaching them where exactly where you need to be. And for you to be out there and reaching more people. And this year is going to be I just feel it's going to be very different for you in a good way, an
Oh,
exciting way, in a
yeah,
very
I'm
exciting way.
really excited. I'm about to cut 50% of the things that I offer. And it's not because they're not bad things. It's just I have to put my energy in the things that I'm being really guided to do. And and part of it is like I'm writing a book. It's going to come out this year and I'm really excited about it. And I have a documentary that I'm going to be in, and like there's just all these really exciting projects that I'm going to be doing and infusing my energy in. And so I have to let go of some things, which is really scary because I've created something that I'm super proud of and that I know people love, but I also know that it's time to create the things that I've had put on the back burner for quite some time. And if I want to have work-life balance, because I have a toddler and a husband and things like that, I have to let go of some things. And my mission is to have fun this year. Not that I didn't have fun last year, but it's like I want to have days where it's just like, if this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't have to have that pressure of, I have to show up for this thing because I've over obligated myself. And that's the thing about our society now, is we over obligate and then we under obligate ourselves too, in a different sense. And that is that under obligation is we get sucked into our phones, or we get sucked into Netflix, or we get sucked into unhealthy vices that take away from the time that you could be using to have more fun, or having a self-discovery, or creating like a healthy exercise routine for your body to, because if you're taking care of your health, everything else in your life falls into place. And so health has to be top priority at all times, because if you're not, nothing else really matters anyways.
Right. You absolutely need your health. And so one thing my team has told me this year, they started before the end of the year. They told me on my upcoming calendar, because people can schedule automatically, and I'm thinking they can schedule automatically for you. They told me I have to go through my whole calendar and I have to mark off days for
Yes.
just myself and fun days. I need to go through the whole calendar, mark them off. And they kept on me and I'm like, oh, but they're like, no, you need to go do it. So just a few days ago they had me going and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it now.
What
And I
days
have
did you pick?
all random days all throughout the year. They wanted me to
Oh,
do the
that's
whole
awesome.
year, but they wanted me to mark them down. So when I get a notification from my scheduler, it says Angela's Fun Day. And I
Yeah.
get a notification that it's Angela's Fun Day. And whatever I choose to do, whether it's working on things that I have coming up, whether it's doing something, going with other people, or doing something with my family, it's my fun day. And it's a reminder. And that's one of the things they want. They're just saying for a lot of you, and you included, you might want to start doing this, scheduling off on your calendar. Take the whole year, mark off a day every week just for you, just for you.
Yeah.
And there's,
So go
yeah,
ahead.
and they're saying that a lot of business owners get in that funk of I have to be there for all the time for everybody, and you're forgetting to take time for you because you need time to recharge, and we're going to need time to recharge in this upcoming year, in the everything's going forward. You're still going to need time for you.
Yeah. So it is absolutely imperative and important. And for me, my main work is group programs. And so I don't do one-on-one sessions anymore. I've paused one-on-one coaching. I just don't have time. Like I literally don't have time. And so, but um I am rearranging my entire calendar this year. And um I plan to, over the next 30 days, figure out a way that I am working a 4-day work week, and that's it. And because there is so much that, as a healer, a business owner, you process a lot of energy, like a ton of energy, especially like I'm getting ready to host a intimate in-person retreat. Like that takes a tremendous amount of energy, and it takes a minimum of 1 to 2 weeks to recalibrate after the event. And
Yeah.
then, and then there's just so much going on. So um I'm figuring it out, and I see it where it's like, these are my meeting days. I'm only doing meetings those days. These are my creative days. I'm only doing creativity days. So it's like you have to have those boundaries and structures in place, because by having the structures in place allows you to have more freedom and space and breath.
And breath, time to breathe. Because as business owners, you start creating things and they start taking a lot more energy that you hadn't planned. And then you have that space in there to decide what you're going to let go of, what you're going to move yourself forward with. And I think that's important, especially there's a lot of business owners in a lot of different businesses, and it doesn't just have to be spiritual, it can be any business. What do you recommend for those business owners to help themselves? Because you work with helping to manifest abundance and prosperity and how to make it feel good to themselves. What are some things you recommend for them to help bring that abundance and prosperity into their business and to help grow their businesses?
One is, you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can't. And it's important to hire the right support system, even if it's for 5 hours a month or 10 hours a month. You will get 10 times more back if you hire the right support system that are doing things that are not your genius zone, that are not your cup of tea, and you're doing the things that you're really efficient at and good at. And so having the right support system in place is going to be really important. I remember when I hired like my first assistant, my number one job in the beginning of my business was to make sure I could pay her. I didn't care if I could pay myself. It was just to make sure I could pay her, because I knew that that would support me in growing. That's from like the business aspect. The other aspect of like just having more abundance and more space to breathe is being really honest with yourself.
Mm.
And honesty is going to allow you to find the right support systems. It might be a tool, it might be a coach, it might be a meditation, it might be something that's going to support you. But if you are not honest with yourself, like, for example, let's say you're really stressed out. Well, being honest with yourself, saying, I'm really stressed out, it's actually more productive for me to take the day off than try to push through this, because I'm going to be more refreshed, more creative tomorrow than trying to push through. Also, like more abundance also means taking time to eat, taking time to exercise, taking time to take care of your body. All of those key things, and when I say body, I mean body, mind, and soul. So it's like most entrepreneurs will get stuck at their desk and it'll be like 2 o'clock and be like, shoot, I haven't eaten and I haven't gotten out of my chair for 5 hours. That's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. And so taking breaks and drinking water and walk, like oftentimes, like I might not have time to go outside, but I will walk around my house. And it doesn't matter what size of house you have. When we lived in California, our house was 800 square feet, and I would walk around my house. Like, you can walk around your house. You can pace back and forth in the same room, move your body. Like, if you're like, it's too cold outside, it's too hot outside, it's too rainy outside, it's too this, it's too that, walk in your house, literally move your body, do some air squats, stretch your body, like make space within your physical body and let go of the stagnant energy so that you can invite in the things that you want. And taking the breaks, and it's been backed by science, like studies, where it's like you're more efficient if you work in 45-minute increments.
Hmm. Very true. And that's something, especially when I transitioned from my other job to doing this full time, it was I would realize the same thing. I'd be sitting and it's like, oh my God, it's 5 or 6 hours later. I hadn't even got up out of the chair, hadn't gotten a drink, hadn't gotten anything. And it's like, well, that's got to change.
And that messes your body up. Like your physical body does not like that.
No, and it's really paying attention to yourself. And that's something when you're working with people, because you're doing a lot of the group sessions and a lot of group things now. And sometimes I think that's easier for people because they can join a group. And you also get the energy back and forth as can they ask questions in your group? Is it you talking?
Yeah,
How does
yeah.
it work?
I love groups. Like it's so much fun. And yeah, like the way that I teach classes is most programs, like I have video lessons, and then I'll go deeper in our classes with the lessons themselves, and then I'll answer questions, and then we'll do exercises and things like that to integrate the healing as well. And people have a lot of questions, and that's the fun part about groups is like every single, and one of my assistants, like we joke about this, it's like I teach our level 1 Sacred Awakening course, our Akashic Record course, twice a year live. And every single group is so different from one another. They ask different questions. They have like one group has this concern over here where the next group does not have that concern whatsoever, but it's like a different concern. And it's just like the synergy and the energy of the group is what dictates how that particular round goes. And I love it because one, I learn something new every single time I teach. And the way that I teach or the way that I talk about the records changes as well, because they're not static, they're not permanent, they're not fixed, they are evolving just like us. And as they're evolving, things change. And as our pop culture changes, things change as well. And there are still core foundational pieces to it, but we can't be afraid of change.
And that's something I think for people to realize, especially when you said the Akashic records are always moving, always changing, just as we are, and to not be stuck. And I love how you said as a teacher, you learn every time you do a class, every time you do a group session, and it's always changing. Every class is different. And that's one thing for me. I love that too. It's always different. You never know what's going to come up, but the everything will go where it needs to go. And the people are in those groups for a reason. They all resonate with something the same. And it's kind of like when we talked about the laundry, one group, it might bother them, another group, like never thought of it.
No, it's just like that's the cool thing about being human. It's we get to interact with one another, and again, it doesn't make the other person wrong and it doesn't make you right, and vice versa. It's just, I find it really fascinating. Like, I find it so fascinating because, like, for example, like my husband, he is very particular about how things are done and how they're cleaned up and all that stuff. Does not even register to me. And it's not that I'm doing it on purpose. It's just doesn't register to me. Like it doesn't, it's not that big of a deal to me. It's not that big of a concern for me. Like my my imagination is off in uh in La La Land. And it's a great La La Land. Or I'm just like being really present with what I'm doing and I'm not thinking about those other things. And so it just depends, and it depends on the moment, it depends on what it is, but it doesn't make either one of us wrong. It just makes for a very fascinating relationship.
I like how you put that. A very fascinating relationship. The thing is, there's a lot of times you do something, everybody's in their own world, everybody's experiencing the world their own way. Even in relationships, your partner can be experiencing the world completely different from you. And it's understanding when things might bother them is like it's like stopping and going, so what exactly about it bothers you? Because you can't even see it, it doesn't even come into your presence. But
Exactly.
being open to saying, what was it about it that bothered you? Because I honestly just really don't get it. It's like I have no clue.
Yeah.
And to be open and to know that sometimes that, especially with family members and friends, there may be things that might happen between you and nobody, and you're wondering why they're irritated with you, and you have no clue, and they think you're doing it on purpose. And so it's good to stop and go, what exactly about it irritated you? Because I honestly really do not understand.
And I think this is a really big deal, especially with people that are like have ADHD or some form of autism or something like that, where they're neurodivergent, where their brain is very different than a typical person's brain. And it doesn't make either one of them right or wrong. We just, it's called tolerance. And it's not tolerance in a way that you're going to allow someone to bully you or take advantage of you. It's tolerance and acceptance of that person's unique ability to be amazing in this area of their life and maybe have challenges in this area of their life. And that is perfectly okay, but it's about having clear expectations and boundaries.
I love that. And having, like you said, it doesn't mean they can mistreat you. It doesn't mean you let go of any bad behavior. But if it's just behavior that is just different from you, to be tolerant of it and to look at it and to understand it from a new perspective, from their perspective. But absolutely, when things are definitely going over the personal boundaries, that's different. That's a
Right.
whole different ball of wax. And so everybody's clear on that. That doesn't mean you let people run over the top of you. That's not it at all.
No. Yeah.
This is just understanding, oh, they look at things differently, they understand things differently, and love them for being different and unique.
Yeah.
Yep. That brings me to our DNA, our role, and how we can the DNA be activated? Can it be activated for success? And this is not only just success in business, but success in relationships and what you're experiencing in life, in your job, or uh, can it be activated for success and how?
Yeah, yeah. So we have, and this isn't an exact number because science is constantly changing. And I think there was a new update, but we have trillions and trillions and trillions of cells in our body. I think the last time I looked at it, I think it was over 30,000, but it might be more now that they've discovered. The majority of those cells have DNA strands in them.
Mm.
And we have the ability to activate our DNA strands all throughout our life. And what we're doing is we're activating memory. We're activating remembrance of gifts and ancestral gifts, soul lineage gifts. We're also having the opportunity to clear out ancestral and soul trauma. We're also having the opportunity to clear out dark forces agendas. I'll say it like that, dark forces agendas. And there are things that we have the ability to do all throughout our lifetime to activate our DNA. It is a lifetime practice. I want to emphasize that. You do not sit down and go, I am going to activate 1 trillion strands of DNA right now. First off, your physical body could not handle that. Second off, you would literally fry your nervous system and your mental faculties. Like it's not worth it and it's not feasible because you wouldn't be able to hold the energy. But we can activate DNA through experiences and spiritual practices and purposely going out and activating it. So we can activate our DNA through meditation. We can activate our DNA through spiritual movement. We can activate our DNA through DNA activations. And so what I do is I offer DNA activations and restructure. And I love it because it's a purposeful sitting down. We are going to activate 24 strands of DNA. Notice how I didn't say 100 or 200 because 24 is literally enough when
Yeah.
we're purposefully going, I'm going to activate these 24 strands. And every single time I run our DNA Awakening Accelerator program, like I activate my own DNA too. Like, and I'm just like, every single time we do it, it's very different from the previous time. Sometimes I have this like, I remember this gift where another time it's like, oh, I'm working on some trauma stuff. I could tell. Like
You can tell when you hit
the
that.
gift is more fun, but the trauma stuff is so necessary. So it just depends on what it is. And I just ran a program in November and like it definitely I'm working on trauma stuff. Like and it takes time to integrate it. And it is fascinating. Like it's so fascinating. I've had students that are like, oh my God, I just like I feel different, or my intuition feels heightened, or I got a raise, I got a new job opportunity. I had someone tell me that like they were able to heal like a nail fungus that they were like able to heal before. And it's like it's fascinating. But the main thing is like we have all of these different spiritual tools. One, you don't want to get FOMO. Like if you are guided to do it, do it. If you're not, don't do something just because it sounds interesting. It's more of like, oh, like, because I tell people like, when the records are speaking to you, when the Akashic records are speaking to you, they're speaking to you, and it's time to investigate that more. Or like for me, like the DNA, I heard about DNA activation. I was like, yes, like, yes, I need to know about that immediately. And I went and got this training, and the training was super expensive. I didn't even have the money at the time for it, but I just knew I was supposed to do it. Second I registered for the course, didn't matter what she taught. Like it literally did not matter. It was me making a commitment to it. I started downloading all of this past knowledge, and it unlocked it for me. And when I got my DNA activated for the first time, not that my DNA wasn't activated, because again, you're activating DNA all throughout your lifetime, but purposefully activating a certain amount of strands, my entire business blew up from it. Like it was like my business like took off. It was like the trajectory of something completely different than where it was currently vibrating at. And it's because I changed my frequency. I changed my relationship with my business, my relationship with myself, and it just went like that.
That's something, a key point is changing your relationship to your business, to your own DNA, to who you are, changing that relationship and all that personal growth you're doing for yourself changes everything around you. And as you've worked with business owners, has that been something where I guess they're just saying, have you noticed with business owners in particular, has it been more of one aspect of teaching or training or over the other, or has it been really a mixed bag of whatever they need at the moment to help their businesses go forward?
So my business is really unique in terms of I have business owners, and then I have people that have no desire to start a business.
Right.
And so any teaching that we're doing is always going to meet you where you're at. And so if your primary focus is business, like they're going to support you with that, but they're always going to keep in mind, and when I say they, I'm referring to the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the Akashic records. The masters, teachers, and loved ones, they are always going to give you step 1 before step 10. And so you have all these business questions, and they're like, I want to start a business and I want to do this. And they're like, let's talk about your worth.
Nice.
Your
Yes.
inner child doesn't feel worthy. How can you start on step 10 if you don't feel worthy to even take action on step 10?
I love that.
It's impossible. So they're going to meet you where you're at. And so like I'm getting ready to host like a in-person intimate retreat. Majority of people there are going to ask about business stuff. And I'm going to just love to witness, to see what ends up being channeled that's going to support them with the business in terms of other things besides the business.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about business stuff, absolutely. But we're going to also talk about other things, because those other things are just as important, and it's going to be so fascinating. It's going to be so fun.
I'm excited for you to do that because it's for me, I'm excited for you. I'm like, oh, that'd be fun just to listen in. But it's, it's the point of people recognizing, because a lot of people, they want to start a business and go right after, but it's like, but what about you? Who are you? What are you working through? What are traumas you've been working through? Work on that, and the rest will kind of fall into place a lot more easily than if you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to, like you said, go from step 1 to step 10. It's like, starting at the finish line instead of starting at the start line. So I really love the fact that you're, letting even business owners know, like, work on yourself, step back into yourself. That's how you really create the abundance. That's how you really create the prosperity, because you start believing in who you are.
Yes, 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 yes. And the thing about business is it's ever evolving, it's ever changing, and you don't have to do the same thing that you see someone else doing. And also, if you're a spiritual business owner or you're a spiritual practitioner that wants to start a spiritual business, sometimes the normal business advice does not pertain to the spiritual business owner. And it's because that's not how we think, that's not how we operate, and that's not how we navigate things. And yes, there is certain business structures and implementations and stuff like that, but it has to be approached from a different energy and a different frequency than hustle, 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 push, 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 because that's not how that works. You want to create from a place of inspiration, and you want to take action from inspired action placement. I want to say, like, it's almost like if you're frozen in fear, it's really hard to take inspired action. But if, and it could be the same thing, like, so we're talking about the same task, but if you move over to this place of, I can still be nervous, but inspired
Yes.
and excited, even if I think it might fail, I can still be excited. I can still be nervous. I can still have faith. You're going to be able to take a tiny baby step forward or a gigantic leap forward from that place versus the energy of, I'm not worthy, I don't know what I'm doing, this is all going to fail, all this other things. It's not going to work. And I think that oftentimes people will, one, mistake their nervous excitement as fear.
Oh, that's very true.
And like, I dropped my daughter off, she's 3 and she just started a new school. And this week, and when I got her to school, when I'm dropping her off this week, I was like, are you nervous? And she goes, yeah. And I go, it's okay. It's okay to be nervous. But I will tell you that nervousness and excitement also feel the same. So do you think we can be excited? She's like, yeah. So it's like, we have to talk to ourselves in a way that is gentle and sweet and nurturing, and talking to ourselves like we would talk to a toddler or a 7-year-old is a great way of reminding ourselves we are that innocent child that is scared of doing things, but with the right tools in place, we can take the leap of faith that can create massive success and change in our life.
I love that. And I love how you talked about treating yourself like the toddler or the 7-year-old, treating yourself like the child. How would you talk to yourself if you were that child versus and being gentle? And they're saying, they're showing me a picture of you. They're calling you the gentle gardener. You're gardening and you're gently helping everything grow around you. And they're just excited that you're doing it that way. So, and it's really understanding we should all be that gentle gardener to ourselves. We should all be gentle to ourselves because honestly, if we would talk to other people like we talk to ourselves most of the time, they would be running away.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I would ask myself, like, this is something I think is a great test, is like, would you say what you're saying out loud in front of a client or in front of a dear friend of yours?
Yeah.
Or to strangers? Would you say that? And sometimes, and this is not only just for your self-talk, but the way you talk to the people you're most comfortable with too, that
Wow.
get to see those trigger points, that get to see the trauma response, that get to see the wounded child. Like, would you behave and would you react the way that you're reacting in front of other people that don't know you that well?
That's a really good exercise for a lot of people, and especially the people, like you said, that are you're the most comfortable with. But if somebody that you didn't know walked in the same room, would you still talk and act the same way?
Right.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Very good. And I just got one more quick thing is
Sure.
when you talk, there's a lot of people that have animals and that they love dearly that are part of their lives. Have you found in the Akashic records or anything like that, have animals ever appeared or have you run into different ones and how do can the animals help?
Yeah. So first off, I love animal spirit guides. The animal spirit guides are coming, they've always been here, but they're coming in more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And we want to work with the animal spirit guides because they have medicine for us. They have medicine for us that can support us in many different ways. You might have, let's say, a dog that shows up. Well, the dog's there to teach loyalty and love and compassion, where maybe you have a jaguar show up, and it's really to support you in tapping in to old ancient spiritual knowledge. Maybe you have an eagle show up or a hummingbird. Like I would be hiking and I would boulder when I would go hiking in the mountains, and there is no reason why hummingbirds should be where I was at. And like a hummingbird would always show up, and it's my interpretation of the message was that's my husband going, you better be careful. So it's like we can have our different relationships and our different interpretations of what this animal spirit meaning is and the message they have, and for the amount of period of time that they want to be with us can be very different than what you read online. And so just because you read it online and it doesn't resonate with you doesn't mean that that's what the message is. And so the animal spirit guides want to support us. There's so many that are here. Some come for a short period of time and some come for a lifetime. Some come for long chapters, some come for short chapters. It just depends on what it is and how it is. But you got to pay attention to what and whom is showing up. Like for me, I had like a dream the other day where a blue whale showed up, and I was like, that's a really important message. Like very, very important message. Like I need to pay attention to it. I need to meditate more on this. I need to communicate with this beautiful animal spirit guide to see what he is wanting to support me with, or what she is wanting to support me with, or what it is wanting to support me with.
I love that, to pay attention to what's around you and knowing we have so much support in so many different realms. If we just open ourselves up to be aware they're around us, listen to their messages, take it in. When you're, like you said, you're having dreams, when you're having all of a sudden things will come in or things will appear, to just be open to them and don't dismiss a lot of the help. And that's one of the things I love. There's so much help coming into our world, not to do it for us, but to be there beside us as we make the choices and decisions going forward. And is there anything else you'd like to cover before we close today, Amy?
No, like, I mean, if you're interested in connecting more or learning more, like I have a lot of free resources. I have a podcast called Awakening with Amy Robenson. You can also go to my website, theamyrobenson.com/free. We have 20 plus free healings, and we have tons of free events that I'm always hosting. But the main thing is if you're being guided to be down a spiritual path, doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, follow that guidance, live a spiritual life, do what resonates with you and not what resonates with the population, because time is speeding up. Things are moving very quickly, and we are meant to slow down and enjoy what is happening.
I love that. And again, all the information will also be down below. And she has a marketing and business degrees, certifications, meditation teacher, master Akashic record instructor, Reiki master teacher, life coach. You've been doing a lot of stuff. Crystal teacher, and that yoga that I have a hard time pronouncing.
Oh, Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. It's actually one of the most ancient like medical teachings. So it's about understanding your body and your doshas and how that operates. And so it's not necessarily yoga, but it's part of this. It's a sister science to yoga.
I love that. So I encourage everybody. I had such a great time talking with you today, Amy, and my team is like, they're like, you are doing exactly what's needed. You're going to be reaching more and more people as you go on, and they are excited that you're here to help people understand more about themselves, to bring themselves forward, to understand who they are on a deeper level. And they are super excited for you. I can't
Oh,
wait to see your book or to read about your book.
oh, I'm really excited. It's going to be about the bodies. So I'm really, really excited, and it's going to go deeper than what I like the bleep that I messaged in here today. But I'm really excited, and thank you so much. This was so much fun chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. This has been amazing. And I also want to remind people, again, go to her website, the amyrobeson.com, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and make sure to check out her free information on her website. I went through and I was looking at it. You have so much great information for people to tap into to start on your journey. And then hopefully they can come in and join some of the groups that you are also hosting too, because there's a lot of great information there. And I'm really happy to have had you on today. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate all your time, sharing all your knowledge. I appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Angela. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. And with that, again, thank you so much, Amy. And for those of you out there, if you make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio, they're on the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you miss them, no worries. You can catch the downloadable podcasts, and you can also go on my YouTube channel and watch the interview live there. So I just want to thank everyone again. Thank you so much. And thank you, Amy. And thank you, all the people who are listening. Thank you for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together.